Morning, it's Wednesday, April 10th. Parshas Sazria Mitzorah. This week's Parsha, as I said yesterday and a couple of times already this week, it talks about the condition which we loosely define as leprosy, skin conditions that we unfortunately sometimes experience. We don't actually experience it these days, and I'm not sure why not. That, or maybe we do, we just don't know. But actually, I was talking about this yesterday, and I was talking about it in Shul between Mincha and Marv a couple of days, and I was not going to talk about this today. But the reason I did, because I was inspired by a guy yesterday, a black gentleman, and I went to Daven Mincha at the yeshiva by Rabbi Ormland, and he was making a delivery of some sort. I think it was a Coke soda truck or something. And he tells me, "Good afternoon." He says, "It is so quiet in there, I thought that there was no school today." I go, "What do you mean?" He says, "Well, at school, you expect noise, you expect people running around, you expect commotion." He says, "I thought that school hadn't begun yet." Apparently, he knew that they were on leave for Pesach, and he thought that they hadn't begun classes yet. And then he tells me, but he did. He looked after he got in, and he looked around. He saw that there were classes. It's so nice to see people who just don't stand around, make commotion with idle gossip. And I said to myself, what a Kiddush Hashem that this guy saw. Kiddush Hashem is sanctifying God's name. Anytime a Jew just does something which sheds good light on us, it's one of the highest levels of mitzvahs you can do. Unfortunately, in reverse, when a Jew does something bad, you always hear them saying, "Oh, and he's Jewish. This is what Jews do." They always like to target the Jews, when they do something bad, and it's really a bad thing. So I decided then that I will talk one more day about this business of not speaking lashon hara. Not lashon hara means saying something bad about somebody, and even saying something good about somebody. That's called rechilas. It says in the Torah, "Lo seilech rochel." You shouldn't go peddling. But don't go peddle around. This is what this guy did. He got this, he got that. Just idle gossip, which is no good. Which, even though you may think it's a neutral item to talk about, many times these neutral things become a detriment to somebody. Now, what does it have to do with this week's parsha? It has to do a lot with this week's parsha, and it has to actually do with the whole business of in Sphira. What is Sphira mostly known for? We're now in the Sphira. We're the counting from the second night of Pesach until Shavuos. We count 49 days as we approach the holiday of Shavuos, where the Torah was given to us. So there are 49 days. Every day we make a bracha. We say tonight is the first night, and the following night, second night, and so on. So that is a biblical commandment according to most opinions. But also something terrible, tragic happened during this time. And that's why we don't listen to music, live music. We're not supposed to take haircuts. That's why Mr. Rabbi Rabinovich is growing a beard. And Ted is very holy. He does it all year round. I try to mimic him.
So I forgot we're not supposed to have any music at all during this time period? I thought it's only the 3 weeks, but not...
No.
This
period is
Okay.
what?
This is Rabbi Akiva.
That's right.
They had the plague, right?
Had the plague. 24,000 of his students, in fact, all of his students practically, died during this period. Why?
They were probably talking about each other.
They were not talking nice about each other to each other and so on.
Abe Rob brought up a point the other night. We were sitting here. He said also something about Rabbi Akiva was backing that false prophet
He was what?
Rabbi Akiva was backing that false prophet of, what's his name, the one that...
Barkova?
And he says that wasn't the reason why.
Okay. Look, like many things, we have several different views and several different reasons, and they are not mutually exclusive. But it is widely accepted and brought down all over that 24,000 of his students died because they did not afford honor to the other person. They didn't treat him right. They didn't say the right thing. Now, you have to understand how powerful this is. Rabbi Akiva was the master teacher ever since creation. He was the paradigm of teachers. He had 24,000 students. Each student was on a level that we can't imagine. Yet they died because of this horrible sin. Rabbi Akiva made the statement, we have different songs in the Torah. We have Oz Yashir, we say it every day in davening. That's the song that the Jews sang by the parting of the sea. We have the song of Devorah. She was a prophetess. She sang a song. We have at the end of the Torah, we have Pashas Hazinu, where Moshe gives over his blessings and so on in prose. We have many songs. So Rabbi Akiva was the one that said that all songs are holy. They're not frivolous songs. They're all holy. But the Shiur HaShirim is the holiest of all. This Shiur HaShirim, actually, we just said on Pesach, that is the holiest of all.
Was King Solomon?
Who wrote that? Right, King Solomon wrote that.
Which one is this one?
Shiur HaShirim, the Song of Songs. He says this is the holiest of holiest. And if you take a look, what is it about? It's really a metaphor of the love between God and the Jews, but it's written metaphorically as a love between a man and his wife, a groom to his bride, a bride to his groom, interpersonal relationships one to another. That is the holy of holiest. The way we act with our fellow man is more holy than the way we act with God. So we're in this period where we should reflect on this. And the Parsha this week, Metzorah, good morning, Bernie. The Parsha this week, the Gemara says Metzorah. Metzorah is a contraction of two words. Motzi, Ra. Together it's Metzorah. What is, good morning, Barney? Got Barney and Bernie. Wow. Motzi means to put out, like when we make a blessing on bread. We say Hamotzi lechem in ords. We take out bread from the ground. Hashem blessed us with bread, so we give out. And Ra, what is Ra? Huh? Not so good. It means bad. So Motzi Ra means to give out bad to somebody else. Now, when you talk bad about somebody else, it causes one of the afflictions you have for it is the affliction of getting all kinds of skin disorders. Now, what is the worst type of speaking bad about somebody? Give me the worst type. If I said yes,
slander the character.
You slander character. That's
Lashon hara, right?
Lashon hara. But there is a level of saying something bad about somebody else which is so horrible that, well, I'll tell you how horrible it is in a second, and that is to tattle on somebody, to snitch on somebody, to inform
Be a rat.
the government on somebody. That is, it's brought down that if you do something like that, whether it's a monetary thing or a personal thing, and I'll tell you what I mean by that. A monetary thing is obvious. You call up the IRS and you say, this guy withheld some monies from you. That's you tattled on monetary things. A personal thing is also, let's say the government is looking for somebody. Somebody's on the run, and you tell the government where he is. So that's called Masira.
So if you saw somebody committing a murder,
Right.
you shouldn't tell the police about it? Shouldn't
Well, we'll talk about that in a second if we'll get to it. But in general, we're talking about, let's say, something not so blatant, not so obvious. Let's say, the government is having, let's say during the Holocaust, okay, they were rounding up all the Jews. So if you told at that time the government that in this house there's a Jew living, and they would now round them up, that's what I'm talking about, a physical informant, informing somebody. Yeah.
Are you talking about a Jew?
A Jew
turning in another Jew?
A Jew turning in another Jew. That is the worst thing. Rashi says somewhere in the Gemara that if somebody does something like that, he goes to hell, goes to Gehenna, and he never comes out. He is there for all generations to come. And I don't believe that is the case with anything else you do. If you kill somebody, so that's a hard. Good morning, Ed. That's a horrible thing to do.
So the guys working with Bernie Madoff, so even though they couldn't turn them in because they were Jews too.
Right.
But
Now the
now
question
they
is,
penalize on it
no,
because
the
they
question
didn't
is
turn it
if somebody is going to kill you, is a murderer, and someone's going to kill you. Of course, you're allowed to defend yourself. So we're not talking about self-defense here, whether it's a monetary self-defense. We're just talking somebody trying to win favor in the eyes of the government, scoring points, and you go and you tattle on this. Now here's something unbelievable, and I'll expound on it a little bit. The Rambam says, ready for this? Mm-hmm. That if you know somebody is going to inform on another Jew, whether it's a monetary thing or on a physical thing, he says you can kill him.
Holy.
Really?
You can kill him. He not only says you can kill him, he says it's a mitzvah to kill him. Now, mind you,
What if you're wrong? Oh my God.
well, like anything else, if you're doing something that you're wrong, you did a terrible thing. But we're talking about in a case where if somebody, or actually he specifically talks about a case where somebody gets up in shul and he announces, I'm going to report so-and-so to the government. And 2 witnesses heard it, and they told him not to do it. And if he does it, it's a mitzvah to kill him. And whoever jumps on that mitzvah and gets him first, he's even more special.
Wow.
Like the Jewish mafia.
Okay. You were going to say something, Bernie?
I was going to ask.
Barney?
I was going to ask, now it escaped my brain because I was listening so hard to what you were saying. So if it comes back,
Okay.
I'll think.
All right. Now, if you notice that in davening, yeah.
So if the Ten Commandments says thou shalt not murder, right? It
Right.
doesn't say thou shalt not kill. Is that right?
Right. Okay.
So if you're going to kill somebody for informing,
Right.
is that different than being a murderer?
Yeah, if you have a reason to kill him.
So a murderer kills without conscience.
Yeah, I'm not exactly sure the nuances of the difference, but...
So I was just curious, that Bernie Madoff.
You're actually preventing another
You
death.
see,
in some ways.
you see him destroying fellow Jews, taking their money, robbing them and everything else, and you're a Jew and you work there, and you don't see anything, then the government says,
No.
you're complicit.
Well, I'm saying so. If you can't jeopardize yourself. Again, I'm talking specifically where somebody does it for the pure intent, for his
You're
own
third party.
gratification.
You have nothing to do with what the guy
Now,
said.
when we daven, we daven Shemoneh Esrei. How many blessings are there in Shemoneh Esrei? 18, but there's really 19.
Right.
Rabbi Gamliel enacted a 19th bracha. It's called Vela Malshinim.
That's their enemies and stuff.
And if you look at it, it's somewhere in the middle of the Shemoneh Esrei, and they say this was the antidote for what was prevalent. And unfortunately, throughout history, we had this situation where it was prevalent, where people would try to win favor in the eyes of the secular government, and they would tattle on them. And this was a prayer enacted as an antidote for the informants, and it's actually a curse. The whole blessing is a curse, cursing those that are informant. Because throughout history we've had many cases where one Jew tattled on the other and caused problem. We're all familiar with Rav Shimon ben Yochai. Okay, he was in a cave for many years. Why was he in a cave?
They were trying to kill him.
Why? Okay, so as what's his name? Paul Harvey used to say, I'll tell you the rest of the story. The rest of the story is why he was in a cave. He was in a cave because there was somebody by the name of Rabbi Yehuda ben Eloi, and he got up and he said how great the Roman governments are. They make a beautiful marketplace. They make highways. They're a great government. Okay, so there were a few rabbis sitting over there, and they kept quiet. Reb Shimon ben Yochai says, no, they're not great. You know why they're doing that? They're making a big marketplace so the prostitutes will have a place to come where all men gather to offer their services. And you know why they make highways? So that they'll be able to go to do all kinds of other bad things. And he put down the Roman government, and somebody tattled on him, and they were out to kill him. A Jew tattled on him. So he had to run away, and he was there for 12 years. There was also, I read this, I researched this, in King Henry III of England at one time imposed a tax, maybe it was a real estate tax or some sort. He doubled the tax for all the Jews. Any Jew who owns property, he has to pay double the tax. There were other Jews who went and tattled on him. They wanted to ingratiate themselves with the king, so they tattled on the other government, on the other Jews. There was another case about 500 years ago where one Jew went to the Pope and told the Pope that the Shas, the Gemara that we learned, the Talmud, is anti-Christian, and it's something that puts down the Christian religion. This was a Jew that did it, and the Pope then ordered, I think it was Pope Julius, ordered that all the Shas, all the books, all the Gemara should be burnt. So there's always people tattling him. Now, where this was most common was in Spain. In fact, in Spain, I said before we have a bracha, the 19th bracha is called Velam Malshinim. The word for a tattler, for an informer, is called a malshin. And in Spain, even today, there is a word it's malshinero. It's a Spanish word, and it's derived from somebody who's a tattler. And now, in some countries, believe it or not, in some countries, the government themselves were so outraged that one Jew would do this to another Jew that they would actually give the Jews a right to go after the Jews and deal with them in any way they saw fit. And
the accused, They would give the accused Jew the right to go after the tattletale?
No, they would give the Jews in the, take one of your men is a tattler, go deal with him. But this didn't happen that often. But it did happen in some cases. There were certain things, though, enacted among the Jews to deal with this, with this type of thing. For example, we get up every Shabbos, we make a Mishaberach, after Mishaberach. There was a time where instead of making a Mishaberach, they would get up, and which is a blessing, they would get up in shul and curse the person who an informer. They would curse him. Instead of Mishaberach, they would say, which means a blessing, they would do a klola. They would curse the person who would get up. There were certain places where a chazan would get up and announce the names of the informers and declare that he is an excommunicado. And they would put him in what's called cherem. Now these days we do have such a thing as cherem, but there's halachas. If somebody's put into cherem, excommunication, he's not allowed, nobody's allowed to go over to him, nobody's allowed to say good morning to him, you're not allowed to give him an aliyah, and basically you have to keep away from a person. It was a very shameful thing, and ultimately also a monetary loss for this person because nobody would want to do business with him.
Could I go back on something?
Yeah.
You mentioned something earlier about even Lashon Hara talking about something good
Well,
could be a problem. And I was thinking about that, trying to understand. And my opinion on that is, sometimes people are at various points of their life where things at some point may not be going good for them. And they hear that so-and-so got a promotion, so-and-so is doing well, and it could make them feel horrible, and they could have resentment towards somebody else.
Right.
Is that where that can go
yeah,
astray?
yeah. Now, again, let me just finish with this. As I said before, the Rambam. By the way, there's a debate among the rabbis whether the prohibition of being an informant, whether this is a biblical or rabbinical prohibition. But everybody agrees that it's brought down that whoever is an informant has no place in the world to come. And there are very few things where the punishment is ein lo chelik l'olam haba. We say before the chapter of the Father, before Pirkei Avos, Kol Yisrael yesh lam chelik l'olam haba. Every Jew has a bigger Jew, a smaller Jew, a more righteous. Every Jew has a place in the world to come. Somebody who's an informant doesn't have. Speaking bad to the government for just to get the guy into trouble so you look good is the worst thing. And by the way, the Rambam, when he says that you're allowed to kill him, he says it makes no difference whether the guy can be the most evil person in the world. He could be a rasha, he could be a sinner, he could be somebody that doesn't do any mitzvahs. In fact, he can be somebody who tortures you, who gives you trouble. You have a neighbor who throws his garbage on your lawn. He steals your paper every day. You hate this guy, okay? And now you found out that he misled the government on the value of his property, and he's paying half the taxes that he should pay.
You're dead for it.
He goes in and informs on him, even though it's only a monetary thing. It's a mitzvah to kill him. And by the way, it's only a mitzvah to kill him, and you can only do it if he hasn't done it yet.
Right, before he does.
If he hasn't done it yet. Once he's done it,
Let me ask
you got to figure out
It's
some
just
other way to get
Lashon
back.
Does the same prohibition apply in the neighbor scenario? The neighbor's a non-Jew?
Oh,
Informing on a non.
no. Let's get those guys. No, I'm just joking. No, it's not nice to be an informer otherwise, but you can't.
still prohibition against
By the way, there's no difference between there's a general concept of a sisa yosher vatov, that you have to do the right thing. You always have to do the right thing, and you have to do the right thing even for a guy, because to cause a desecration of Hashem's name, Chil Hashem, is worst of anything. So yeah, but you can't go kill a non-Jew if you know he's going to inform. But according to Rambam, and by the way, the Rambam says even nowadays, and he was talking about his days, but we're not talking about the time there was the temple and everything. We're talking about even when there is.
So you've done a mitzvah, you kill the guy, but you're going to spend the rest of your life
Like
in
in
jail
jail,
because
yeah.
the secular world is going to say you just committed murder.
Yeah. Okay. Have
Thank
a good
you,
day.
Mendy.
Okay.